I always get a new shirt when you're on.
Whoa, you know what? That's a little bit skimpy on the shoulders.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Today is McDougall Monday, which means we are being honored by having Dr. John and Mary McDougall as guests today. And Dr. McDougall is going to be talking a little bit about which shouldn't be controversial subject, but is in the plant-based world, fats and oil. Please welcome back the McDougall. So good to see you guys again.
Hello there.
Hi.
Yeah. You know, if you had to pick one of the macronutrients that's most damaging, it would be the fat. I started preparing this lecture, about 3 months ago. And I started talking about oils and fats and explaining all the issues today. Even talking about the chemistry involved in fats. And I went through all kinds of physiological effects of fats, like how they sludge the blood and how they suppress the immune system, cause bleeding problems, cause heart attacks, and so on. But it just was too much. So what I have to do is I have to somehow get this package down to something that I can deliver to you. And right now it is not that way. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to answer any questions you have about fat, because I've learned a lot along the way. I've been really working hard to prepare for this lecture.
And he ended up with way too much information, actually.
Usually when I do that,
He tried to give me the talk, and it just went on forever.
yeah, well,
There's so much information about fats and oils out there that it's just unbelievable.
it's called lipotoxicity. And that term, lipotoxicity, was popularized by one of my mentors, Nathan Pritikin. And he wrote about lipotoxicity. So, if I mention lipotoxicity, or I title my lecture that I'm giving you lipotoxicity, you have to understand where, at least as far as I know, the origin came from, which is Nathan Pritikin, who taught pretty much the same thing as the McDougalls teach. And, the truth. As many of you know, I put up Nathan Pritikin's basic research on the website for free, our website. And I just put up Walter Kempner's basic research for free, 1,000 pages for you to read. These are the truth tellers. And
so Dr. McDougall, I just finished watching a docuseries that was hosted by David Perlmutter called The Science of Alzheimer's Prevention. And there were a couple of the plant-based neurologists on it, both of the Scherzeis. But one of the things he's been saying, and lots of doctors like Mark Hyman, who wrote a book called Eat Fat, Get Thin, is that if we don't eat a lot of fat, the brain is made of fat, we're going to get Alzheimer's. And people believe that we need fats and oils to prevent Alzheimer's.
Well, it's not true. It comes from something that is true, which is the brain is made of fats, to the idea that eating fat makes the brain stronger. It's like, the muscles are made of muscles, so eating muscles should make the muscles stronger. And, we could go on and on and on of parts of the body you could eat to make those parts stronger. It just ain't true. You could, an elephant's brain, which is like 4,000 times, well, anyways, it's really big. An elephant's brain is built on what? Grasses and leaves and whatever the heck they eat.
Yeah.
Peanuts when they get around us, right? You build a whole elephant brain. So you ought to be able to build a little tiny person brain. And there's research that I will show you as time goes on, or you can look back at some of the work that I've put on the website in the past in terms of newsletters or videos. But, the argument is if you needed all this fat, particularly fish fat, then how would terrestrial people have survived? People who are landlocked. How did they survive? How did they become warriors if this was so essential? Well, it's just extrapolations, conspiracy theorists. Think about it, folks. Worldwide, people have lived on diets based on starch, like rice and potatoes and corn and wheat, and not fish. I mean, it's been the extremes of the environment where people have lived on fish. Yeah, coastal areas, yeah, north and south, yeah, where they had access to it, but most people are terrestrial. So anyway, you know, yeah, everybody's looking for a new gimmick.
When I actually had dinner once with Dr. David Perlmutter, I was teaching at a spa that I present at regularly called Rancho La Puerta. And they do a very low fat diet there. They hardly use any oil, but he had to ask for oil for his food. And when he offered me some, I said, no, I don't eat oil. And he goes, why? And I said, well, I follow Dr. John McDougall, Dr. Esselstyn. He goes, oh, you're going to have a stroke. What's your cholesterol? I said, 99. He goes, oh, that's too low. That's very dangerous. So people believe this, Dr. McDougall.
Yeah, you know, they extrapolate. You know, that's what conspiracy theorists are all about. You need to look at the bulk of the research. You need to use a little bit of common sense. You need to make the observations that Mary and I have made for, you know, for 46 years. You know, and that is that people who eat rich foods, you know, like kings and queens, aristocrats, you know, pharaohs, priests, you know, the rich people, they were fat and sick. I shouldn't use the word fat. I was caught myself. I watched one of my FedEx talk, or not FedEx, TEDx talks, and I kept saying the word fat, and I go, oh my goodness, you know, I'm really out of date. But anyway, just they were extremely overweight. Yeah, how about that? Okay, overfat. They were overfat is the scientific. They were extremely overfat.
Well, I was corrected actually by a doctor because I was saying obese patients. He said, you can't call them that. They're patients with obesity, and we can't use the adjective to call them and the names.
Oh, man.
You got to be politically correct today because it's so easy to offend people. So what is the truth then, Dr. McDougall? Because we need some fat, right? But isn't the food enough? Do we have to be having that obligatory tablespoon of ground flax or chia or that ounce of walnuts today? Because even in the plant-based world, a lot of the plant-based doctors and dietitians say that, I'm going to be honest, that the low-fat diet that you teach and that I eat is dangerous.
You know, I'm going to address that in great detail in the lectures. You know, how much fat do you need? And this was determined in research that was published in the Journal of Nutrition back in 1958. What they did is they took 21 infants and they put them on various amounts of fat. They fed them whole fat milk, they fed them skim milk, they fed them 1% fat milk, 2% fat milk, and so on. And they watched what happened to these infants, and some of them developed fatty acid deficiency. And the amount of fat that was required to correct the fatty acid deficiency was like in the fractions of fractions of a gram of fat. Just, you know, something you couldn't possibly avoid getting in a natural diet. It would be impossible. Anyway, that was the original study done on fatty acid deficiency. And then there were studies done on people who had intestinal surgery and they couldn't absorb fat. And the way these people were corrected is kind of interesting, the way their fatty acid deficiency was corrected, as well as other people who couldn't absorb fat into the gastrointestinal tract because they had maybe some injury to their gastrointestinal tract. We could feed most of the nutrients they needed through an IV, you know, all the sugars and proteins and vitamins and minerals through the IV. But back then, you know, when I was early in my practice, we couldn't feed fat through the needle. You were a nurse, you see all those globs of fat going through this. You know, you couldn't do that. So what we did is we put safflower oil on the skin of the patients. And that was enough for them to absorb. You know, I think another really interesting example is how important fat is and how much we conserve fat. As I told a story for you, AJ, in my lecture on protein, I told you the story about the Irish and how the prisoners, the 10 prisoners of the IRA, they starved to death. And that was during the revolution, which, you know, anyway, what these 10 men decided to do is they're going to starve to death in protest, and doctors and scientists were able to examine them. And what they found was they used about 18% of their protein, but what they lost was they lost their fat. You know, they died of fat deficiency. That's how much the body protects itself from fat deficiency. is that they live 60 days without any food on average. So, the idea that you're going to get fat deficient from, not eating all these greasy foods or buying their supplements, not true. And, there's a whole section I'd like to give. I will give it. The problem is, it's gotten to the point where I can almost say I'll write another book. And maybe I'll title it Lipotoxicity. There's so much information. Anyway, AJ, I hope that settled the fat deficiency nonsense people are trying to teach you. And we can always go into the DHA nonsense. And
well, that's the other thing. People are worried that their brain is not going to age well and that they should be taking DHA supplements.
There's a dozen other supplements advertised to make your brain bright on the CNN news. You know what? That's the new thing, Used to be to preserve your sex organs and then your muscles and
now it's your brain.
Yeah, it's now everybody's giving up on the muscles. And now you can sit in your chair and fix your brain. Yeah, that's a good sell. I love it. All right.
How much do we need, Dr. McDougall? And is it really okay not to eat?
You need fractions of a gram. In terms of percentages in the diet, okay, but that's the way you need to look at food in terms of percent of calories. You need about a half a gram of essential fat. Excuse me, the amount of fat that you need in the diet, the percentage is about a 0.5%. And as far as the amount of fat that's in various foods, rice is 8%, potatoes are 10%. Corn is like oatmeal 16%. I don't know. Corn's 12%.
People don't think about those kind of foods having fat in them.
Well, like I say, we look at the population studies. I mean, look at the people from Central America. The people of the corn, they lived 1,300 years. They had laws, they had babies, they had wars, they had athletic events. The people of the corn, and many of them were landlocked. And they did quite well. Yes, they did. And this is nonsense. So people are trying to sell you another gimmick. Selling you beans and rice, there's no money in that. And once you learn it, nobody can take it away from you. That's the thing, AJ. It's kind of nice to know you. We'll talk to other people who have understood this message, and Mary, of course. And it's not like you're looking for you interview a lot of people. Are you looking for a new program, a new understanding of good nutrition?
No.
AJ.
The thing is I can't get you on every single day, so I have to do a few other guests here and there.
I think these conflicting opinions are fine. They kind of stretch things out. But, don't buy them unless they make sense. Hopefully you won't have anybody on the show that offers anything that would be dangerous. Once it passes that and you can afford it, and you decide that you can afford, the risks are okay, the finances are okay, the time off to test is okay. Then why don't you put these people to a test? Why don't you take their supplements or follow their nuts juice squeezes or whatever. See if you get the results. We've been doing this a long time. We've taken care of 12,000 people under a residential setting. And we know what happens to people. It'll happen to you too when you switch from the high-fat Western diet to a traditional diet of people, like corn-based diet of the Aztecs and Mayans, and the Incas. You live on potatoes, and the breadbasket of the world. Guess what you live on? The breadbasket of the world. When you go to Asia, what is there? Asia. What do they eat in Asia? I know what you think about. They have a variety of foods in Asia, all kinds of different grains and root vegetables. But you think of rice, don't you? Yeah,
absolutely. Dr. McDougall, Lauren, who's watching live, says she'd like to know how fats affect cholesterol, even if it's healthy fats.
Oh, let's see. Well, Ansel Keys, of course, the conspiracy theorists have gone after Ansel Keys, but he was one of the pioneers. Ansel Keys put out a formula about how consuming cholesterol and fat affected your blood cholesterol level. It's something that holds value today. And you can look up that formula. Just look up Ansel Keys and look up cholesterol, and you'll find the formula. It's showing that taking in polyunsaturated fats, vegetable fats, lower cholesterol, and taking in saturated fats raise cholesterol, and independently taking in cholesterol raises cholesterol, which disturbs a lot of people, especially those who don't want to give up their meat, because where is cholesterol found but in animal foods? So they would say it's not the cholesterol, not the, it's the fat, it's the saturated fat. It's, I tell you that. Anyway, that you can look up Ansel Keys' formula. What you ought to be asking is, when you eat the way you're supposed to eat, which is a starch-based diet with some fruits and vegetables, keeping turkey for Thanksgiving at best, what would your cholesterol end up being? Well, we've studied it. We know what happens. Our scientifically researched published studies are there. In 7 days, the cholesterol drops are about 22 milligrams per deciliter. And over a year, it's been measured in 2 different programs. Over a year, people maintain cholesterols of about the same level, about 20 milligrams per deciliter. So, that's a huge drop, especially maintained without drugs, without expenses, without drug dependency, without all the side effects, no worries, just food.
There's a question if children need more fat.
Well, yeah, sure they do. That's why Mother Nature designed human breast milk to be 50% fat. When you start out in life, you need to myelinate the brain. You need some extra fats, absolutely. And mothers naturally provide that fat always. They never miss. Not only does a mother provide the fat for her needs, but she nurses a baby, and she grows a baby within her womb. She gets all that fat from rice or corn or even potatoes, which are 1% fat. So,
So potatoes are lower in fat than rice and everything.
But it's enough.
Corn.
But it's plenty enough.
Okay.
But look at history. I showed you examples of people who lived on all potato diets.
So what about satiety, Dr. McDougall? I find that potatoes are the most satiating food on the planet, potatoes and sweet potatoes. But Christina says that even if fats are not physiologically necessary, if she doesn't eat fat at every meal, she doesn't feel satiated, even if she'll eat 5 pounds of sweet potatoes. So how do you feel about fat and satiety?
Well, it's something people are used to. We used to call it the Chinese restaurant syndrome, which is when you went to a Chinese restaurant. Of course, we were huge meat and dairy eaters back then. When you went to a Chinese restaurant, you got up from the table and you were still hungry because, where's the lump of meat? Where's the glob of fat? It's somewhat missing, and that's what your stomach is used to. That's what your body is used to. So it takes a while before you get used to satiety, based on what the body's looking for to be satiated, and that's sugar. You are designed to seek sugar. Tip of your tongue is designed with sweet tasting taste buds. You have starch tasting taste buds on your tongue that are as powerful as the sugar tasting taste buds. Yes, they are. You have taste buds that repulse things like the fat tasting taste bud. If you taste fat, you're repulsing it, and you stay away from it, just like bitter and sour. Stay away from them. They're medicinal or poisonous. So there's just one other fat. What is it? One other taste. You know what it is. The one for
Umami.
Umami, right? MSG, right? Thanks. Anyway, you're designed as a seeker of sugar. What I'm trying to tell you is, look, the people who live in Japan or China are used to, before 1980, when they got 90% of their food from rice, white rice. They were satiated. They worked hard. They fought battles. I bring this up on occasion. I know it offends people, but I hear that that's not one of my strong traits. Being non-offensive.
Being non-offensive.
I point out that in my time, many of my friends went and died during the Vietnamese conflict. We lost to rice eaters. And my dad, he was in the World War II era, and we almost lost World War II to rice eaters. But don't tell me that rice eaters don't perform or get satisfied or have brains. You know, you're missing the boat. That kind of bias bigotry, you're missing the boat. And, you know, what are you missing? You're missing a chance to save yourself and your family, your community, and your country, and your planet.
So people are asking if you would go through the research with some doctor that's vegan that I've never heard of, that apparently disagrees with you about lipotoxicity and fat. There's a lot of vegan doctors now that are promoting high fat diets, vegan keto, even oil is good for people with heart disease, even cardiologists now.
You know, I've held this platform for so long, AJ. I'm not going to make it easy to share. You know, go and attack the things I say. Tell me why I'm wrong. It's not me to prove I'm right. I've already laid the foundation for I'm right. You know, I don't have to prove to them that I'm right and they're wrong. It's their obligation. And maybe if they do, they can share the stage, but not till then. What do you think, Mary? I've worked hard. I've really worked hard. And so have a lot of my friends, Dean Orange, Neil Bernard, Esselstyn and Campbell. You know, we put a lifetime into this, ladies and gentlemen, and somebody comes up and says, oh, you know, you're going to kill people by not giving them enough fat. Oh, lots of attention. And besides that, I like my olive oil. Oh, wow. You know, I'm sorry. That's how I take things these days in my golden years. Yeah.
So do you think we should get our omega-3 fatty acid levels test? There is a blood test, but that's also controversial as to whether or not it's even accurate.
It's irrelevant. You know, it's irrelevant. You could do this test and it will tell you that you eat poorly. You can test your blood cholesterol, it'll tell you eat poorly. Test your blood sugar, it tells you eat poorly. Test your triglycerides, tell you eat poorly. Your uric acid, poorly. Your, your lipoprotein A's, your lipoprotein B's, your whatever. How many you're doing poorly do you need to hear? Give it up. You know, eat good.
Well,
all your poorlies will get better. I tell you, they all get better.
One of the questions that was sent in by Mark was actually about these supplements. And he mentioned that they are, some doctors sell their own DHA, but they haven't done any third-party testing on any of their products. Why? And so is it safe to take these things when there hasn't been third-party testing?
It won't change my opinion whether they get a third-party testing okay or not. You know, taking these vegetable oil supplements or fish oil supplements are, you know, it's a bad idea for a whole bunch of reasons. You know, let's take the fish. For example, hey, somebody's got to donate the oil. And it's these creatures that I used to get to see a lot in the ocean. So we don't want to do that. You know, we're into saving the planet, aren't we, folks? Yes, we are. So we don't want to buy fish oil supplements. Well, how about getting it from flaxseed and other types of seed oils? Well, these oils, you know, they promote omega-3 fats primarily. And omega-3 fats thin the blood, which may reduce the risk of a stroke or heart attack. Because, you know, after all, you get a stroke and heart attack from blood clots forming. It thins the blood, folks. What happens if you get in an auto accident or you have a brain hemorrhage? You have all this thin blood. You know, and plus, you know, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. When you eat these fish oil supplements, you gain weight. There's research done that shows you, you know, a normal prescription for fish oil supplements, the parties involved gained weight. Oh, don't eat the fish. Don't eat the oils. They're toxic. They're toxic. They sludge your blood. I mean, there's so many things that I want to show you in a slide presentation. I think probably I'm going to have to put it together for our website. AJ, maybe we can do snippets here and there if you'd like.
Absolutely.
I don't want to bore these people. I really.
Well, I don't think you'll ever be. That's the one thing. You're never boring. You know, this is something you've said for a very long time. So I put it on this little coaster and I put it on a T-shirt and I put it on a hat. But I'm telling you, people are disagreeing with you, Dr. McDougall, saying, well, I better not stop my DHA supplement because they're afraid of Parkinson's or dementia as they age. This is really not sinking in. People are thinking that this is something they have to have.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know, you are living a modern age. You can go to the internet, you can do the research. You know, when I do the research, you know, I of course look for adverse effects and, you know, controversial opinions and so on. And I, of course, try to verify. I want to tell you the truth as I know it. You can do the same thing. Good grief, you got computers. Just sit down in front of them and type in the questions. See what the answers are. Like, for example, you type in fish oil and reducing the risk of dying of heart disease. Research has been done over the last 10 to 15 years consistently says that taking these supplements does not reduce the risk of dying of heart disease, especially in people who've never had a heart attack. So, you know, read the research. It's all there. You want to read the science or somebody's opinion?
Linda says, what do you think of vegan keto diets? If somebody's say not overweight or doesn't have heart disease, does it matter how much fat they eat?
Vegan keto diets. I don't know I don't know what a vegan keto diet would have in it, except it would restrict carbohydrates tremendously.
Probably like nuts and I don't know. I'm guessing nuts or coconut oil, maybe avocado.
Well,
It's low carb.
First of all, it's wrong. It's wrong. You know, if you believe there's a diet for human beings, and you do the kind of observations that I've done, I think you'll come to the conclusion that there is. And that's a diet based on starch, as almost everybody that's walked this planet has consumed. So why don't you mess with that particular diet? Keto diet, well, maybe you lose more weight faster because it might make you a little sick. You know, maybe you get a little sick from eating all those vegetables. You get a little stomach growling, and could happen. I've seen it. Makes sense, doesn't all that roughage in there?
I can't
You
imagine.
certainly aren't going to get satisfied.
I can't imagine what a keto.
Well, I would only guess, like
Vegan.
AJ started to recommend, they got to get calories some places, nuts and seeds, because they're almost all fat. They're 80% fat.
So what's your basis of
Exactly. What do they eat? Like salad with guacamole? I have no idea.
You're trying to get rid of the guilt of following the Atkins diet, which was killing animals in the planet and everything else, you too. So you go to a vegan keto diet.
Yeah, but what's your
So you get all the advantages of the keto diet, which is you get so sick. No, I don't think this is true. I don't think you get as sick as you follow the old Atkins recommendation. But anyway, I know, I believe you. You know, you're welcome to correct me. I don't claim to be an expert on this, but I've brought out some really important points. So if you want to enlighten me, that's fine. I'm ready.
You know what we need? We need to do like a Biggest Loser show where we have a bunch of McDougall eaters and a bunch of like vegan keto eaters, and then do like tug of war and things like that, and see who.
It'd be like having two political parties argue on the same network. Doesn't happen. You know, it's whatever reality you want to live in, you're going to live in. The reality that people live in who follow our recommendations, AJ, is a reality of ease, of comfort, you know, of lack of worry, because you know you're going to be healthy the next day. You know, you know you're not going to have a stroke, or, you know, life is going well for you because you're in control of the situation. This is an easy way to live. A hard way to live is to have all these doctor's appointments. You know, have your most recent memory 2 weeks in the hospital. To have to get on an airplane and ask for a seatbelt extender. To have to take, 20 pills from your doctor every day, a couple of shots too. But that's a tough way to live. You know, you can't go to work, you feel horrible. You can't play with your grandkids, you feel horrible. You can't play with your spouse, you feel horrible. Whew. Not the way I want to live. How about you, Mary?
No.
You know, help yourself, folks. You know, live in your own reality. And I would face our reality with any reality, but based on science and observation.
Dr. McDougall, how much fat is there in breast milk? Because I'm thinking if it's such an essential nutrient, wouldn't there be more fat in breast milk? Because that's when a baby needs the most growth.
I mentioned 50% of the calories are fat in breast milk. Yeah. And, in certain times in life, like early premature breast milk, it's higher in fat. And the kinds of fat, they change with the baby's needs. Hey, I want to tell you, this is an amazing organ. It always delivers at the right temperature, always, always contamination free, always comfortable. This is a heck of an organ, I'll tell you. This breast thing, I think I'll take it over a glass bottle of rubber nipple any day. I mean, as a baby, I would have. As you guys,
Mary, people are asking what you're drinking and if it's okay to have coffee if they're doing the Mary's Mini.
Oh, actually, I'm drinking tea this morning.
Yeah.
I enjoy tea more than coffee, so I don't drink coffee anymore.
And me tea.
He's got tea also.
Is it okay to drink coffee doing a Mary's Mini?
That's a good question.
We're going to
have to include this in a tape that Mary and I are going to do this week on further edifications on McDougall's Mary's Mini. And we're going to have to make up a few things, I think. Because you guys have had some questions that we never thought about.
Everybody has asked questions about Mary's Mini. When we put it together, it was just a simple test to see whether people could live on one starch and how you feel.
You feel great. I did it once when I was having really bad problems from international travel with IBS and SIBO. I lived on sweet potatoes and a zucchini for 8.5 months. I never felt better and I never got bored.
Yeah. It's really amazing, but I would imagine that coffee would be okay.
I can't see any reason why not. Actually, I put in one of my books. It was McDougall Program, 12 Days to Dynamic Health, which is still a national bestseller. It was put out by Penguin Putnam about 20 some years ago. I put in the one of the manuscript copies, research on taking caffeine and weight loss, how it increased the metabolic rate. And, there was actually weight loss that was shown by consuming coffee, significant amounts of coffee. And I put it in the manuscript, and my editor came back and said, this is not going to look good if you put this kind of recommendation in your weight loss book. And I said, well, I kind of want to help everybody I could. And, that's what the research says is you have coffee. It's obvious. You twitch more, you fidget more, you're nervous more, you stay awake more. And whoa, it's a illegal high. Love it.
They want to know.
What can I say? You'll still lose weight. Yes. And you'll probably be happier about it. But it's not a health food, so don't get the wrong idea. It raises cholesterol, raises blood pressure, causes indigestion, causes diarrhea. It's got a lot of negative effects. There's been a lot of research out lately that says it doesn't cause cancer, which I really am pleased. I love to hear good news about that. It doesn't cause cancer. So anyway, yeah.
So they want to know specifically what kind of tea you guys are drinking.
It's Republic of Tea, decaf, mango Ceylon.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. So Dr. McDougall, we had Dr. Lyle on the show yesterday, and he likes to unpack things and look at it from an evolutionary lens. And our ancestors, yes, like you talk about how they were on a starch-based diet, but they couldn't have had access to the amount of fat that people are including today, like butter in their coffee and coconut oil and even nuts and seeds. They could not have had access.
Yeah, fat was something that was of great value. People were starving. And, you had fat, and that was a way to stay alive most efficiently. So, occupied a great place in our history, but that's not the way we live today. We live today with an abundance. And it's the abundance, the accessibility to foods designed for kings and queens. And as a result, every place I go, it's gotten to the point where beyond my wildest dream, just like in politics, beyond my wildest dreams, things have gotten so crazy as far as people who in their health. I hardly, I can walk into a situation, particularly a mall, a gathering of people, and I look around and 80% of the females in their reproductive years, the time when they're having children, when they're having, relationships that are supposed to be so wonderful, and they're so overweight. It's gotten beyond the point that I ever thought it would get, Mary.
Oh, I know, because we say that to each other all the time. We see people walking by, and we'll say, "Wow, if she only ate the McDougall diet, she would be beautiful. And she's
Well,
just,
you got to be careful about that because people think they're beautiful.
well, they're, yeah, that's right. Fat is beautiful.
Yeah, fat is beautiful. So, we look, I'm sorry, we're biased. We would try and get over the best we can. But, being overweight is not healthy. So I can argue that point. As far as your personal attractiveness to being a body shape, I mean, it was the norm back in the 1800s.
To be thin or
No, to be
fat?
fat. Yeah.
Oh.
For a woman particularly, she was, she was
Oh,
more
because,
lustful,
because that meant that they had enough food.
Yeah, right. This is a keeper. She utilizes food really good. Anyway, no. It was a difference in appreciation. But in the time I was raised, it was very, very clearly biased in a direction of people being trim. And I can think of some real advantages to believing that way. But whatever.
Well, I mean, I love you guys and I think you look great, but there are people, even people watching now that say, you don't look good. I don't look good.
We're too thin, right?
Well,
Absolutely.
We're going to stay not looking good, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to stay not looking good. Whatever. It's, again, politics has taught me that you could get people to believe anything. So don't go thinking you're going to pull the wool over my eyes anymore. I see what's going on. Conspiracy theorists. Cancel it.
Well, I wish I had tough skin like you because people tell me, "Oh, you look so old. I could snap you like a twig." And
you can't listen to these people. You know what the truth is. You're doing a really great service, and bringing on people with controversial points of view is good. I think it's really good, and I expect you to ask the tough questions, AJ. The tough questions. If you don't know what the tough questions are, Mary and I'll help you.
No, I would. We talked about how next year maybe having some panels and who we would do this. I think that would be fantastic. So Sina says, Dr. McDougall, is it okay to put oil on your skin, like coconut oil for moisturizing or remove makeup, or would that still get absorbed in a negative way?
It's absorbed. It's absorbed. I don't think it's absorbed to any significant amount that it would cause cancer or any other problems, which oils, by the way, cause cancer. In fact, of any component of the diet, vegetable oils are the strongest promoter of cancer of anything I can think of. Your polyunsaturated fats, even your olive oil and, whatever, they promote cancer in experimental animals for sure. And
you're going to love this question, Dr. McDougall, because you actually have a 12-day program that addresses this viewer's question. Christine says, I want a simple, easy way to lose weight. I've tried everything. Help. I bet she hasn't tried your 12-day program.
I bet
No, it's always been our effort to bring our beliefs to people. We're evangelists, but I think we're on the right side of the tracks, so don't you worry. So we try to find different ways in, books and lectures and residential programs and adventure trips. I was reminiscing about the adventure trips over the last couple of days. Really, we had amazing experiences that we wanted to have with people to convey this message. Now we are in a world that's changed, and it's changed for the good. We brought everything that we know, every experience we've developed over the last, in our case, 50 years, to the new program, which is telemedicine, telehealth. And, every one of our presenters, Jeff Novick, Doug Lyle, Jack Dixon, Heather McDougall, Anthony Lim, medical doctor. Every one of them will tell you that, presenting over the internet is far better, even more intimate in ways it should be than trying to do it in person. It's just so rushed in person. And anyway, we do this telemedicine program. Dr. Lim sees all the patients. I get to see a couple of them. I love to see
But
patients.
it's all done remotely. I mean, they get to stay at home, which is really nice because they learn as they go. And most people really like it that way. And they end up losing more weight than they did when they came and lived with us. And then they had to go home and start cooking for themselves. And we've had so many more positive comments because people they just love staying home. And we have cooking classes and they can cook along with them. And we teach them how to do things. And so it's much better. than the residential program.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And thank you for letting me participate. I love when I get called in to do a cooking demo. The people are,
Oh, yeah, I forgot
Yeah,
one of our
guest-
newest
our
presenters.
guest
Yes,
chef,
thank you, AJ.
yes.
I'm just,
It's fun, isn't it, AJ?
I love it. And the people are so nice. I mean, it's just, they're just such a great group. I mean, I kind of wished I was in the group, but maybe I'll get sick and I can come do your program.
well, you don't have to.
Yeah. Dr. McDougall, this is an interesting question because you talked about how fat is repulsive to the tongue, but for many people, it's still a pleasure trap food based on the high caloric density. So how can it be both repulsive and attractive at the same time?
Well, to test my theory, try and get somebody to drink a glass of olive oil.
Ugh.
What do they call a restaurant with a bad reputation?
A greasy spoon.
Okay. And when you get grease on your hands and face, you immediately try and wash it off. It's repulsive. You get grease on your kitchen counters. It's just, you scour the counters, the pots and pans to get the grease off. It's disgusting. So why the grease? Well, the purpose of the grease is to get the things that we like to stick to the food. For example, the grease gets the salt to stick to the French fries and potato chips. The grease gets the sugar to stick to the donuts. The grease gets the spices to stick to the salad leaves. Well, see if you can figure out how to get the sugar, salt, spice onto your food without the dangerous oil. Then you won the game. You get all the taste without the harm, which is what we've done. This is what our program teaches. What Mary did, and she was the inventor of low-fat vegan cooking. And the reasons why I say that are discussed in the book, our newest book.
Well,
Healthiest diet on the planet. Thank you, Mary.
Jess says, things like oil and butter, do they slow down your GI tract?
Well, it depends. It depends. I don't think so. I think they actually increased it, particularly people who have problems with bile acids, those who've lost their gallbladder, or they have ileopathies because they have something like Crohn's disease or had radiation in the area of their abdomen. So these people have problems with bile acids. And what happens, well, let me tell you how you're talking about such a person. This person will tell you that they haven't been to a business meeting in 2 years because of the uncontrollable diarrhea. And they'll take you to their home and they'll show you that their bathroom has a computer screen, a couple of telephones. That's where they live. That's where they do business. They're having 20 watery, uncontrolled stools a day. Anyway, what happens with these people is they're eating the typical American diet, high in fat, makes a lot of bile acids. They can't deal with the bile acids because they're no longer stored in the gallbladder. The gallbladder's gone. They can't reabsorb the bile acids in the last part of the small intestine because it's damaged. And so these bile acids go into the large intestine where they're very irritating. They cause the watery diarrhea. And Andreessen in the early 1970s, in journals such as his gut article in 1973, they discuss the effect of a low-fat diet on patients with gastrointestinal diseases. And he was taking people that have, 20 more watery stools a day and putting them on a low-fat diet. And within 48 to 72 hours, they dropped to 2 to 3 form stools a day. Yes, that's so. I kind of look at it from that point of view. I think some of the things that you eat with oil can be constipating, such as dairy, or maybe you're taking calcium supplement pills that are constipating. A lot of medications are constipating. Be careful.
McDougall, Nadine wants to know if when you're getting your blood cholesterol levels checked, if you should be fasting, because they had hers do hers not fasting and her LDL was 123.
Should be okay. The total cholesterol is okay. I don't know about trying to think whether it affects LDL. It might, but total cholesterol remains about the same whether you're fasting or not fasting. So, hey, I don't pay much attention to fractions of cholesterol. I'm an old country doctor. I just paid attention to total cholesterol. That's enough for me to help you.
Right. Mary, people are saying that your skin looks great and if you have a moisturizer that you like.
Most of my moisturizers are made by Shikai. I use it out, one of them on my body because I can't, my skin gets really dry, especially in the summer when I get out in the sun. And so I use a Shikai, and it's a total body moisturizer. And then they also have a facial one. And I can't remember the name, except it's made by Shikai and it comes in a white bottle. And I've been using it for years, and that's the only thing I put on my face.
How do you spell Shikai? Because I haven't heard of it.
Shikai.
Thank you. I'm going to look it up. Maybe I'll have the person on the show. Thank you for the recommendation. Dr. McDougall, Sean is saying, but is it okay to have a tablespoon of ground flax every day on the oatmeal just for good measure, or is it really not necessary?
Well, first of all, whole flax seed goes through the intestinal tract pretty much undigested. And that's why we have always recommended it for constipation. When you start grinding, that means you started processing. And when you turn whole seed into ground seed, you kind of free up the nutrients, particularly the fats. And of course, you can see the fat at this point. If you like set the ground seed, in a jar on a table for a while, it'd be fat. I assume.
Well, it spoils after a while because it's been ground up.
Oh yeah, it becomes rancid.
Yeah,
that's part of the talk too.
Well,
I should have given the talk,
I'm
but it
telling
would
you.
have taken me a week. You guys have had to sit here for a week.
That's okay. You'll come back anytime. I always save
All right,
9 o'clock for you, and Monday, McDougall Monday. Mary, there's a question. If somebody's doing Mary's Mini, is oatmeal okay for the staple starch?
If you're going to eat it for all 3 meals.
Well, that'd be rough. I don't love it. I don't love oatmeal. It's too mushy.
The idea of Mary's Mini is to choose one starch, and you eat that starch only at all of your meals for 10 days. And so if you choose potatoes, then you have potatoes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 10 days. And you can have some green and yellow vegetables with it, but no other stuff. That was the way we planned it in the beginning, and that's the way it started. And people now have added all kinds of things to it, and they eat one starch one day and one starch another day, and that's not the idea. The idea is it's supposed to be really boring. So you eat the same starch.
This is a diet. You need to suffer.
You eat the same starch all 3 meals. So no, unless you're going to eat oatmeal every single meal for 10 days, then no, oatmeal is not considered part of the Mary's Mini.
Yeah.
I would add, you could theoretically argue, and I think what you said is true. I think an oatmeal diet would be a great way. I think about how the Scottish lived. They ate oatmeal all the time.
Sure.
And of course, we'd like to eat whole oats, but I could argue that maybe potatoes are better for weight loss because remember, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. Potatoes are 1% fat and oatmeal is 16% fat. This is why we never put the amount of fat in any of our recipes. Our editors have asked us over and over again, after the recipe, would you put the percent of calories of fat, et cetera, et cetera? And the answer is no, because people would judge the food based on something like I just told you. You think oatmeal is bad because it's 16% fat and potatoes are good because they're 1% fat. They've both been the staple foods of very successful populations, and they can be your choice, or you can have a mixture. But if you want to make it really boring.
See, I don't think eating
I'll
potatoes.
tell you how to do it.
I just never find eating potatoes or sweet potatoes at every meal boring.
Neither do we, AJ. But I think I worry that it's because I'm not the passionate fool I used to be. We really eat very simple these days. Like last night, Mary asked, well, what would you like for dinner? Well, I really like the rice and vegetables you cooked the night before. And, she basically did that with a little variation. And Friday night it'll be rice and vegetables,
No, tonight it's going to be potatoes.
We're going to mashed potatoes.
Potatoes.
Anyway, we don't eat very many different foods, just a few.
Dr. McDougall, I thought once I heard you say, though, not to eat too many beans in a day. So would beans not be something you want to do on Mary's Mini 3 times a day?
Again, you're getting into some pretty big details there, particularly when you're asking people from the rich Western diet to make this kind of transition. Beans are comforting foods. They're very solid. People are used to them being, staple foods. And
Yeah, but to eat them 3 times a
Well,
day.
I was going to get to that point.
Oh, okay.
Okay, when
Sorry.
when I first put this program together back in the 70s, all I cared about was my patients. I just wanted my patients to get well. I was in a hospital setting. I just finished my residency, and became a board certified internist. So I was dealing with all kinds of really significant problems, which is really what I enjoy doing. My motto is: the sicker you are, the happier I am, because the more likely you are to get better. Anyway, I had patients who had liver disease, osteoporosis, kidney stones, kidney failure. So, we had to limit their protein intake, and you would have to. You would have to limit their bean, peas, and lentil intake if they lost that much kidney function. So yes, that was the point of view I was coming from. Now, whether or not the person who's pretty healthy, eating beans every day more than I recommend, would be harmful, I think the degree of risk is very tiny. Although on the Western diet, when you get to be 70, 80 years old, you've lost 20, 25% of your kidney function just from your normal eating. The level of protein in the American diet, protein's toxic. So, that's why I was been a little stricter, just like with people with hypoglycemia. And maybe I did it for diabetics, I forget. Probably did. I said to limit your fruit intake, and I put a little honeybee up there in the recipes, and to indicate to people that maybe I'd be a little more cautious. Hey, look, I'm a doctor, my foundation is taking care of people. It just so happens that most people just need a little help, and we were able to give them that little help real easy. Particularly easy, as you mentioned today, doing a telemedicine program. It's just, the rewards are huge. Come to the website, find out for yourself. So
I got to tell you, we are getting so many questions on Mary's Mini today. So for example, the question is let's say you pick potato or sweet potato as your starch. Does it have to be the same potato and sweet potato for 10 days? Or could you maybe have a red one day, a russet, you know what I'm saying? And are you allowed to put anything on them? And the most important question is, what is, from Claudia, why should we eat the same starch for 10 days? What is the benefit of Mary's Mini?
Make it
The
real boring.
benefit is boring. So that's why we say you pick one.
This is a diet. You need to suffer.
You're not going to eat this for more than 10 days. That's not what we recommend, is that people eat Mary's Mini
You
forever.
wanted to lose as much weight as you could possibly lose. You didn't care. You were ready to sacrifice your kidneys and your liver and your bones eating the Atkins diet. You were able to starve yourself. Whoa. You just want a program that works. Well, we're going to make you suffer by, go ahead, Mary, tell them how to suffer.
No, you pick one. You pick one. If you pick sweet potatoes, then it's sweet potatoes for 10 days.
The same color.
But could it be an orange one day and a white one the next day?
Eyes on the potatoes, make sure they have the same number of eyes.
The same color. So if you pick white potatoes, then you eat white potatoes. So you can't vary them, and you can't have rice one day and potatoes the next day, because that's not boring anymore, and you'll eat more food. And the idea is to eat less food so that you lose weight faster, because that's the whole idea of Mary's Mini, because it's a diet.
Right, because variety encourages overeating. Yep, yeah. Perfect.
We want to meet everybody's needs, AJ. We're an all-purpose type of program. So you got kidney problems, we can fix them. You got problems with, you want to be on a diet.
There is a question about kidney problems. How do you do it if somebody's on dialysis or have compromised kidneys? How do they do the protein and phosphorus thing that they're always worried about?
It's really tough. There's an article on the website. Of course, you find it under hot topics under kidney disease. I wrote on diet and kidney disease. And plus, I wrote about it first back in McDougall's Medicine, A Challenge in Second Opinion, which you can find on our website. And it talks about me. At that time, I was taking care of kidney patients. This is not something abstract. I was in hospitals taking care of people who had kidney problems. And it's tough. When you get on dialysis, you've got like less than 7% of your kidney function left. You lost over 90% of your kidney function. You're in big trouble. You need the help of a dialysis expert, or 2 or 3 or whatever. Likely you're going to end up on dialysis. I think you can stay off dialysis longer if you follow the recommendations that I talk about. And I'm pretty darn sure, in fact, I have no doubt you can tolerate dialysis much better if you eat well. Their attitude is, doesn't matter what you do, we'll just suck it off the machine. Well, if you have less stuff to suck off, you probably do better, don't you think? Well, anyway, following the program on dialysis does make some challenges, AJ. And I've done it. I've helped people, and can be done, but it's a lot of work. I don't encourage people who are in that kind of situation to come and see us. We won't turn anybody away, but that's
Didn't we have someone in the last program
yeah, we did.
that was?
Yeah, and she did really well. Absolutely,
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. Thank you for refuting everything I said. Yeah, we did have somebody in the last program
And she did really well.
Really well.
Thankfully, we do have some plant-based nephrologists now, like Dr. Shan Hashmi, so that's really inspiring to know. People are asking if you personally, the McDougalls, eat nuts, seeds, and avocado, or do you avoid them entirely?
Not much.
We eat avocados once in a while. I mean, I have a few in my refrigerator because we eat them less and less.
More of them spoil than we eat.
Yeah.
So we eat avocados, and we have some nuts in our cupboard.
Which we
eat
once
sometimes.
in a while.
Sometimes we have no aversion to it. What do you think? We need to gain some weight. You want to push the nuts on us. That's what they're doing,
Yeah.
Mary. They're trying to fatten us up. All right. We'll do the nuts.
Well, let's see what nuts, seeds,
Avocados. More avocado.
what else?
Nuts, seeds, and avocado. I remember when I had Heather on the show, she said when she stopped eating nuts, 10 pounds just went away like magic.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. But you have to eat. It would be like having more than 3 or 4 nuts, which is what when I think about people out gathering food in the old days. When they found nuts, they were in their hard shells, and there were probably only a few of them, so everybody probably got 1 nut. So big deal. It's the way they make them now in jars already shelled for you. Then you can just sit there and eat a whole jar. And I think when you eat that many nuts, you're going to gain weight, or you're going to find it hard to lose weight.
Right. What about tahini? There's no tahini in nature.
I want to add something here. If you want to find the research, I did a newsletter article on nuts. They called nuts. They put them in a hard shell for a reason. In there, it talks about the scientific research, but I would guess some of your guests have come on and used to say, well, eating nuts doesn't cause weight gain. Well, the studies that they're citing limited the nut intake to 1 ounce a day, 1 ounce a day. They were also otherwise limited in their calorie intake. So it really wasn't a fair study. It wasn't like turning you loose with a bottle of Planters Peanuts nuts, salted.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the same thing, folks. And that's what the research is. And that's how they fool you, is they say, well, you can only have a few nuts, and then you don't gain weight.
1 ounce of nuts would be how many? 5?
I don't know. I never counted my nuts.
Okay.
I like, as you mentioned, I sometimes have people on for differing opinions but I like to meet people where we agree. And even though you and Dr. Graham disagree on whether a diet should be starch-based or fruit-based, where you actually agree is that the diet needs to be very low in fat. He says like 10%. I'm wondering how you feel, Dr. McDougall, about people that attack you saying, your diet is dangerous. Low fat is dangerous. That's the word they use.
Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. There are people who think that the forest fires in California are caused by space aliens. Show me the evidence. We published our research. I've spent about 47 years collecting the data as a passion of mine that supports what I believe. And believe me, it supports what I believe. But just happens that I carry a majority opinion. That's what the research says, folks. And you can deny it if you want, or your friends can deny it if they want, but show me the evidence. You can claim that eating the McDougall diet turns you green.
Well, they always say the Adventist study, the Adventist health study. That's what they're always saying, and that's what they're always quoting about.
Well, you know what? You need to go back to what I basically tried to tell you, is that all large successful populations of people throughout all of verifiable human history have obtained the bulk of their calories from starch. Some ate, poisonous berries, hallucinogens, and, they did lots of things, but they got the most of their calories from starch. You're a starch eater, starchitarian, I don't, same thing, I prefer you leave the animals alone, but, if you want to eat a couple of dead animals once in a while, big deal. Start as far as your health goes, as far as the planet goes, as far as the dead animal count goes. But we're making improvement. Anyway.
So here's a question, not on starch, but what is your favorite vegetable? I don't think you like vegetables very much, Dr. McDougall.
Well, Mary's doing something new. Can you talk to him about it? I mean, is it really clean enough to talk to him about what you're doing with the rice and the vegetables?
Well, it's just frozen
go ahead,
vegetables.
tell him. It's just phenomenal.
Well, what we have learned is that instead of buying fresh vegetables all the time and having to use them up before they spoil and deciding how I'm going to fix them, we buy big bags of frozen vegetables, either assorted frozen vegetables or they have something in one of the stores that we shop in up here in Portland. It's called a stir fry starter, and it's a bunch of vegetables in a bag, and I use a couple of bags of these and I put them in a nonstick pan, and I just cook them really slowly until they thaw. And then I add a non-fat, I found a great non-fat teriyaki dressing that I put over it. And I found a couple other things. You can find a lot of non-fat, if you look not in the salad dressing parts, but in the sauce part of the store where they have different sauces. And so I found a teriyaki sauce, and I put that over the vegetables, and then we put that over a big glob of brown rice, and so that's his favorite meal now.
Yeah, we had that 3 days in a row last week.
Oh,
We had sweet potatoes in the middle.
Yeah, we did. We had a sweet potato night. But those are always good, and they're really easy. They're really fun, and good grief, how much easier could it be than just to cook a couple of sweet potatoes? And
for your vegetable question, usually with our sweet potatoes, I choose broccoli.
Yep.
Me too. That's my favorite meal. We can eat together. Perfect.
Yeah, so that's probably his favorite single vegetable, but the mixed vegetable ones he really likes.
Nice.
It's just that the texture is maybe I'll find some critique for it. The texture, once it's been frozen, of the vegetables is.
Oh, you like it better?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, it's just so much warmer and friendlier and sweeter, and it's a different texture. You are right. The fresh vegetables probably have more nutrients, but nutrient deficiency ain't my problem, and it's not yours either.
Have you ever tried broccoli in the air fryer? It's so good.
Oh, no, I haven't. I'll have to do that.
It's really, even if you didn't like broccoli, you'd like it. So Dr. McDougall, David says, is it rude to ask Dr. McDougall his age? He's looking great.
I guess I'm 74. 74. Yeah, 1947. 74. And you know what, man? Mary and I, every once in a while, we say, there's a time we didn't think we would make it to 50. How old would we be? What would the year be when we turned 50?
Yeah.
And Mary's older than I am, so always, well, whatever.
The big joke in our family forever for that. There's always 2 weeks out of the year when I'm 2 years older than he is, until his birthday comes, and then we're only one. I'm only 1 year older.
Yeah, well.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you're both in May. I always remember that. So
things are going really well for us now. We had some tougher times in the past, but now things are going really well, and we're on a new project and trying to get people aware of what's happening with the planet. We've got a new website coming up, AJ. I don't think I've announced it any place publicly, and I'll just tell you about it. It's called Diet Therapy for Planet Earth. We spent our whole life taking care of people that live on planet Earth. And now we're going to take on a new patient. the planet Earth. I know, you're crazy. Well, that's okay. That's a compliment.
So Dina says, what do we need to eat to increase both bone density? Because a lot of people are worried about osteopenia, osteoporosis on a plant-based diet.
Well, you just eat a healthy diet, the kind of diet that people in rural Africa, rural Asia eat, or used to eat. Starch-based diet, and they don't have osteoporosis. I mean, it was non-existent in the rural African before 1980. Osteoporosis didn't occur. And you say, well, women living in rural Africa didn't live old enough. Well, at that time, 10% of the population was over the age of 60. So that's not true. So that's my best general advice. If you buy into the fact that vegans have more fractures, and I think it's because they're more active, but whatever, we could go into that argument. You can actually find it on my website. I wrote it up about 10, 15 years ago. Anyway, if that's your problem, you believe, you can always eat those high calcium vegetables. I don't know whether you get much calcium out of them, but you could try. Or you could take calcium supplements, and calcium supplements do work. But the mechanism is different than you thought. You probably thought that the calcium went into the bones and made the bones stronger. Well, calcium's only a small part of the bones, an important part, but a small part. What happens is that you take in the calcium in the form of an antacid. And the reason people get osteoporosis is because they eat dietary acids. They like cheese and meat, high protein foods that are made of lots of amino acids, loaded with acid, the rich Western diet. And what you have to do is you have to neutralize these acids. Well, the bones try, but they can't keep up at the pace that most Americans consume all of this acid, all these animal foods. So you can add extra antacid to help neutralize the acid. That's one of the treatments I've used for my whole career. The people I think who have serious bone problems is I put them on antacids like Tums, but it could be something else. It could be sodium bicarbonate. It could be potassium hydroxide. It doesn't matter what the anion part is. That the cation part, I forget it. It doesn't matter what the first part is. It's the second part. Hey, folks, it's the alkaline nature, the alkaline part that counts. That's why you help the bones if you help them at all. That's what the research says. Anyway, so don't worry about the bones. Eat well, get some exercise, sunshine, very important. Stay away from those high vegetable protein products like isolated soy protein foods, bad for the bones. Seitan, bad for the bones. But of course, you listen to my protein lecture, so you know all about that. And if you didn't listen to the protein lecture, it's on YouTube, it's on our channel. So, hey, I'll stay ahead of you.
Hey, Dr. McDougall, David, who's watching live, referred me to Wikipedia. This is really funny. When you Google your name and go to Wikipedia, John A. McDougall, and it actually says you're born May 17th, 1947, says, is an American physician and author who is co-founder, chairman, and sole board member of San Francisco-based Dr. McDougall's Right Food. He's written a number of diet books advocating the consumption of low-fat, starchy food. His diet, the McDougall Plan, has been described as a fad diet that carries some possible disadvantages, such as flatulence, limited food choices, and poor mineral absorption from excessive fiber intake. What do you think of that?
Well, they're irrelevant. There's always a little bit of truth in everything.
I like the excessive flatulence part.
Yeah, we admit to that. Yeah. But our gas smells better than your gas. Your gas smelled like something died. Yes,
Wow.
it did, like something died. But we're not talking to you folks. We're talking to the other folks, the relatives. They don't understand. They just don't understand. So anyway, there is a lot of fiber, but it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant when it comes to bone health. In fact, plant fibers are very important for bone health.
And everybody's talking about the microbiome these days, that too.
Yeah.
Sure, the microbiome. It all comes back to the same thing, whether we're talking about religion and the understanding of various religions about the right diet for their followers should be. It's consistent. No religion out there tells you to eat more animals. They tell you to eat pulses, vegetables. So societies, you study history, you study rapidly vanishing societies. Everybody's CNN News has converted everybody to rich American ways. This is true, folks. Everything about it says it's true. One of the last slide in the presentation that I was going to give you, and I will eventually. The last slide says that there's a great conspiracy going on, and that is the 13 known vitamins, 11 are made by plants. Vitamin D is from sunshine, it's a hormone. The B12 comes from bacteria. Plants make 11 to 13 vitamins. There are only 2 essential fats, omega-3 and omega-6, alpha-linolenic and linoleic acid. They are only made by plants. Of the amino acids, there are 20 amino acids. 10 are essential. They're only made by plants. Plants always have adequate mineral intakes because they need these minerals to survive themselves. They need iron, they need calcium. They need these things with few exceptions. And so they take them up through their roots, to the water solutions in their roots, and they incorporate them in the leaves, flowers, fruits, stems of their plant parts. And then we eat the plant parts and we get the minerals always. Always, there are a couple of exceptions, but always is close enough. So like I said, this is a great conspiracy. It's all lining up against you, folks. It's saying that you need to eat plants. That's just the positive note. How about the negative note? How about the harmful aspects of eating all these animal foods? Viral infections, epidemics. Where do you want to end? Where do you want to start?
Well, they don't talk about that.
Well, they're more and more talking about. They're more and more talking about how if you, because they're running out of things. With the loss in faith and the effectiveness of the vaccines. And we still support vaccines, so don't get us wrong. With the conflicting messages about masks, people don't know what to do. Well, I can tell you what to do. Your one big chance is to learn a healthy diet because the healthy diet gets rid of comorbid factors. And if you look at the reports, they all say the same thing. People who have comorbid diseases, which are due to the fork and spoon, overweight is the primary one that people look at. Diabetes, heart disease, kidney disease. These are comorbid factors that are caused by the rich Western diet, which we cure. You may be left with some residual damage, but we cure the active disease by changing back to a healthy diet.
Yep. So Tim Kaufman, who's watching live, hey, Tim, love to have you on the show next year, especially if you'll do a cooking demo, says, I wonder if Dr. McDougall and Mary realize how many lives they have saved or drastically changed. It's probably in the high thousands.
Oh, when we look back on it,
we like to think so because we've been trying for a long time to get people to eat this way. Because we know it works and we know people get better.
We're believers. That's one of the things I told you about Dr. Graham is at least he believes in what he says. He's kept the same message for the 40 years I've known him.
And he's he's low fat, he's plant-based. So, if there's some people that maybe resonate with that more, that's fine with me because he's still.
It at least opens their eyes to other possibilities. And that's really important.
Yep, absolutely. Because everybody's doing good in their own way. And that's the prerequisite for being on the show. Dr. McDougall, I know you talked a lot about, I don't know if it's when you first became a doctor or in medical school, you said one of your elders said you were going to starve doing this. I'm curious if any of your detractors have become fans over the years.
Oh yeah, many of my professors. I was honored at our medical school at Michigan State University. I gave, the 20-year reunion address or 25-year reunion address. So, I've been able to convince a lot of people, but not as many as I thought I was going to be able to. That's my aspirations were to change the world. when I discovered this nugget of information. I thought everybody would be really excited to hear about it. I was wrong. It's taken a long time. You know, I remember my dad telling me after being on Larry King's show, he says, and me complaining about the fact that I was making no difference. He says, son, you have no idea what a difference you're making. And I have to say, AJ, you know, at this stage of our life, and it's taken that long, we can see we've made a big difference. And we feel very positive about what we've been able to accomplish and what people have picked up. You know, as you've heard me say many times, AJ, I stand on the shoulders of very many important people, an awful lot of research, an awful lot of knowledge. You know, I'm here because, you know, I happen to bring a few positive qualities to a whole bunch of truth.
And, you know, and we've had a couple of experiences that just within the past couple of weeks
Oh, yeah.
that happened. We were walking down the street in downtown Portland, and these people stopped their car, got out, ran over to us and said, you know, are you Dr. McDougall? And wanted to talk to us. Just said, you know, you changed my life. You did all this. And it was a really nice experience. And I think it's probably happened to us more up here in Portland than any place else. And then
More maybe it's just time.
yeah. And then last week we were in down in Salem showing one of our grandsons Oregon State University. And on the way home, we had to stop and fuel up our car, which takes a while. And we went through Target because that's where the fuel station was. And this woman, we were checking out, we had our face masks on. And this woman comes up and, Dr. McDougall, you know, I've lost 100 pounds. And I have more to go, but I lost 100 pounds. So thank you very much.
You forgot the Reed College experience.
I'm going to tell that.
Tell that one too. Okay.
We took him to Reed College here to check out that college also, because that's a small college and Oregon State is a large college. So we wanted him to compare. And we were sitting in the chapel, I guess, there. And we were listening to a lecture about how the college is different and the advantages and things like this. And there was this man and his daughter sitting a couple of rows in front of us. And he kept looking back at us. And I figured, well, he must know John. And then a few minutes later, I heard him whisper to his daughter, you know, Dr. McDougall sitting right behind us. And so she looked back, and it was so, and he kept looking back, and it was so obvious that our grandson noticed it. And he said, I couldn't figure out why these people were looking at you all the time. And so it shows us that, you know, there are people that we don't even know about that are doing this and have really gotten great results. And so that kind of makes you feel good.
And it was the question I asked at Reed College. It was my voice.
Oh yeah, your
that he
voice.
recognized. And yeah, you know, it's part of the business, and we really appreciate people coming up and saying hi to us. And you know, I've always said, you know, people come up to me and they go, I'm sure you're tired of hearing this. And I say, no, I'm not. You know, I really enjoy hearing how you've done. Even when you've done poorly, I mean, I'll try and help. It's not as pleasant as when you've done well, I have to tell you. But hey, all those kinds of things that we answer, and you know, as I'd like to mention again, is the most effective way that we've been able to help people is through the telemedicine program. And visit the website. You'll be amazed at what we can do for so little in terms of finances. Big deal.
Dr. McDougall, your son, Craig, is a medical doctor. Are you guys on the same page with most things, or do you guys have lively debates on certain topics?
We go back and forth about a whole bunch of things. Basically, we are. And this is a conflict that I don't entirely understand, because he knows the truth. You know, he's worked in our practice and understands it, but he's also a professor at OHSU Medical School. So he loves doing that. He loves the administrative work. He loves taking care of patients in standard medicine. And he really doesn't love the arduous task that you know so well and Mary and I know so well, which is trying to get people to listen to us. He basically gave up. He worked at Kaiser for a couple of years, tried to establish our kind of program with the Kaiser system up here. Too much resistance. Even when we tried to point out the financial gains. But, I'm really optimistic, AJ. With this new world, these new understandings, the new ability to people to look at things differently and picture themselves in different settings. We're not stuck anymore. Things are going to change drastically. And we're so excited that, we can be part of this particular march. We're going to win. We're going to win, AJ. Just keep at it.
Well, who's going to fill your shoes, Dr. McDougall?
I mean, I'm going to die?
Well, I mean, it's
really,
possible.
this is shocking.
I mean, I certainly hope not, but I mean, at some point you might want to retire.
I was talking to Mary about that this morning. I was trying to get this lecture together and not feeling it was so good. When I'll be appreciated is when I stop being threatening. That's the problem I have people look at me and they just, I think they just don't want to get involved sometimes because I've got such a hot personality. I believe strongly and I, from my brain to my lips, I just kind of say what I mean. I'm not a mean person. I don't really have any enemies, but, I have a way of saying things in such a way that it's kind of confronting to other people. And so what we're talking about is when I do pass away, as it happened to so many people in their careers, they were able to be appreciated because their own personalities didn't stand in the way of the message they were trying to convey. It's dead.
Mary, has Dr. McDougall softened at all the last 40, 50 years?
No, I don't think so.
Just express it differently.
Oh, this has just been so much fun. People want to know what kind of exercise you guys do. I guess you walk, I'm guessing.
Walk.
Well, this has been, we wanted to make sure we're in as good a shape as possible for all the grandkids visiting. They did. It was really successful. If you haven't done it in a while, I encourage you to do it, folks. If you got them grandkids out there, have them visit. It's worth the adjustment. So we want to get ready for them. So we did a lot of walking. We're still doing a lot of walking. It's really enjoying it. We're up to, a couple of miles. Yeah. And it's a big deal for people who, right after the fire had a lot of trouble walking and the fractures. So we've come a ways, still working at it. I can't say exercise is something we could be more passionate about, but we do really, I think, quite good.
And do you think any of the grandchildren will follow in your footsteps?
That's a good question, AJ. I can't predict now. They're too young. We had some nice talks with our 17-year-old as our tour up at the university. And he was really excited about, really making something of his life. And, really all he knows is the medical business because so much of his family is involved in it. And, as far as the next boy goes, he's got his own interests and his own, things that excite him. He could be anything. He's such a talented young man. The third one, very strong. Boy, if I was going to predict anybody that's going to succeed of all my grandkids, probably Ryan.
You think you're Ryan?
Yeah, I had to get that. Is not fair, right? You shouldn't judge him.
No.
No, hopefully they're not listening to that. You can't show favorites.
Take that back. We love them all, for different reasons.
Yeah.
Just like you kids, I'm sure you feel the same way. You love them for different reasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any. I have one dog, but yeah.
Well, there you go. If you've ever had two dogs, you love them for different reasons.
Absolutely. Are you guys ever going to get any more pets?
No. Well, we actually have two visiting pets.
We have two grand kittens with us today for a week, and we've had him earlier this summer for another week, and we're going to have him again later on the summer for another week. So we have grand pets.
Yeah, we just temporarily get them. Just like with the grandkids, we're going to have them in a couple of weeks also.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can't listen. I really love this idea of McDougall Monday. With my audience, you have so many people watching live. They love you. They thank you so much. And please come back again when that lecture is ready, because we would love to hear it.
I'm not gonna pin you down right now, but that's a serious invitation. We've got the hour. In fact, we don't know of any better way. We would rather spend an hour a week with
Monday
you.
morning.
Yeah. Well, I saved 9 o'clock for you.
Well,
What can I tell you? McDougall Monday.
If your audience tires Are they going to get mad at me? It's okay. They can like us or not like us. I don't care. Just keep responding.
Well, like you've always said, Dr. McDougall, you'd rather be hated than ignored, and you certainly aren't being ignored. We have close to 1,000 live viewers, so.
Well, we'll get them excited. I promise you I'll do that. I'll get them excited.
Yeah, because this is really important, because a lot of people don't even believe this. And this is how I've lived my life. This is what's enabled me to be thin for 10 years. This one saying.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you've had the Nelson twins on about the fat you wear on your
I
skin.
have. Oh, and they're twice with their acne recovery. Absolutely.
That's so sad. We saw a young woman who was, in all ways that I could appreciate, very, very attractive. And she was out walking around, and boy, oh boy, I could tell she suffered so much, the acne scars. It's a shame. It's just for anybody, any child or adult, totally preventable. You
Yep.
need animal foods and oils. So anyway, we're going to talk about that. If you give me enough time, if I get this put together correctly.
Right now, it's way too long.
Right now, it's just.
Maybe we could do it in 2 parts if that's easier, so that we can.
No, AJ, it's 9 parts right now.
Okay, so then we'll do a series. I'm open, Dr. McDougall. I'm not going
We'll see.
anywhere.
I don't promise anything.
All right. Well, whenever it is, we always look forward to having you back on. Thank you guys so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in 30 minutes when we have our first Iron Chef of the week, Kathy Hester versus Jill Dalton. And if you guys like McDougall Monday as a regular feature, please let me know, share this broadcast, and please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I don't ask often, but it really helps me out if you will. Take care.